It wasn't that long ago that PC gamers played with large 10 keyless and full-size mechanical keyboards. If you've been following the community for some time, you can almost pinpoint the beginning of the transition to smaller, more compact keyboards. It was just a couple of years ago when 60% keyboards started to gain in popularity. At the time, you had three options at the epicenter of the compact market: the wireless Amp Pro 2, the Ducky 1-2 Mini, and the Vortex Poker 3. The Poker 3 introduced an aluminum case with a beautiful floating key design, but it lacked in a few key areas. Vortex Gear has recently come out with the new limited edition keyboard, the Vortex 10. It retails for $159 and celebrates the company's first 10-year anniversary. Special thanks to Vortex for sending one out for a review. With this keyboard, we're going to see what Vortex has done to bridge the gap between it and other keyboard companies. Let's go ahead and get started. Inside the box, you have a dust cover, the Vortex 10 keyboard itself, a Vortex branded switch puller, some product documentation, and a white Type-C USB cable. Before we move on, I would just like to point out that the packaging was very tastefully put together. From the slip cover to the magnetic flap to the protective foam padding. Very nice execution by Vortex on their 10th anniversary. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at their new keyboard. Coming from their all aluminum Poker 3, I expected this to be significantly heavier, but honestly, this is a pleasant surprise. It's not all metal, it's not all plastic, it's both, and it's refreshing to see. The design here is completely different from all the other keyboards I've experienced up to this point. Although there are other keyboards with casings composed of both metal and plastic, Vortex brings something new to the table here. The top unibody casing is crafted from CNC machined aluminum and also serves as the top plate for the switches. It's very sturdy and provides for a very solid typing experience. The left, right, and front side are practically bezel-less. The keycaps are as close as you can possibly get to the edge, and it provides for a very interesting minimalist appearance. There is a little bit of a forehead on the top side, but that's towards the back of your desk, so it shouldn't affect your real estate very much. 60% keyboards are very compact, and the Vortex 10 takes it a little step further. Its footprint is actually smaller than the Ducky Mecha Mini. The Vortex 10 has a length of 29 centimeters, a width of 10.5 centimeters, and a height of 3.8 centimeters. It weighs in at a shockingly low 545 grams. For comparison's sake, a Ducky 1-2 Mini with plastic casing weighs in at 590 grams. One of the most unique things about the Vortex 10 is the utilization of polycarbonate for the bottom case. It reminds me a lot of the NK65V2, which is one of my favorite keyboards. The material here is also well made and should provide for some nice underglow lighting, which we'll demonstrate later in the video. The 4 feet are rectangular in shape and very grippy. They are also recessed in the case, so they shouldn't give you any problem staying in place. The Vortex 10 has a fixed 4-degree typing angle. This may be a bit low for some, but I personally enjoy it, and especially for gaming. On the back left-hand side, there is a Type-C USB port. It's only mildly recessed, so it should accommodate all of your cables. The port itself is very sturdy with minimal play. Moving on to the keycaps. These keycaps are PBT double shot and feature shine-through legends that are printed on the front side. There's probably going to be an adjustment period for most people, but after using it for a while, it grew on me quite a bit. If for some reason you still don't like the keycaps, the keyboard does have a standard layout, so it should be extremely easy to find replacement keycap options. The font is very clean and legible. It doesn't scream gamer, but there is a slight strike through on the legends that would have had closed loops. The construction of the keycap itself is solid. I measured several of them and got an average reading of 1.35 millimeters. The keycaps have a good amount of texture. It's not as gritty as the keycaps from Razer's PBT upgrade set, but there's just enough texture that it doesn't feel slippery and it's comfortable to type on. The centering is superb and there's very minimal keycap wobble. Now let's go ahead and talk about the switches. On mechanicalkeyboards.com, the Vortex 10 is offered in 4 different switch variants: Cherry MX Blue, Brown, Red, and Silent Red. What I have here are linear Cherry MX Reds, which most people should be familiar with by now, but here are the stats if you're interested. It's a shame that there aren't any options other than Cherry MX, but Vortex's saving grace here is their hot swap functionality. This is something that we've been asking for a long time, and Vortex has finally delivered. They also don't hold back in this department either. The switches sit firmly on the aluminum top plate, but are extremely easy to remove with their included switch puller. The PCB features 5-pin hot swap sockets, so you'll be able to use all of your 3-pin and 5-pin switches without any modifications. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for, the RGB. The LEDs here are actually insanely bright. In general, you can expect more muted RGB lighting with dark keycaps, but the LEDs here have no trouble shining through the legends on these black keycaps. The keyboard features a floating key design, and the RGB is just amazing when viewing the switches from the side. Now we come back full circle to the polycarbonate casing, and I think this was a great choice by Vortex. The underglow lighting is very unique and gives this keyboard so much character. On the front side you see just a sliver of the lighting effect, but on the left, right, right and back sides of the keyboard, the aluminum frame is cut out to expose more of the polycarbonate. With the RGB lighting on, the keyboard has a distinctly beautiful appearance. The polycarbonate has a hint of frostiness, but it's translucent for the most part, so you can easily see the bottom of the PCB. Here there are a total of 25 LEDs. Wow. And the underglow lighting matches very well with the floating key design. If you're an RGB fiend, this is the keyboard for you. You can easily adjust the RGB effect speed by using PN paired with J or L if you want to decrease or increase the speed. PN paired with K or I adjusts the RGB brightness. Changing the RGB mode is also just as simple. PN paired with 5 or 6 will cycle through the different RGB modes. You have all the usual modes including rainbow wave and water ripple. I'll be showing some of these modes off at the end of the video if you're interested. The underglow lighting also features some options that you can access through PN and 7. If standard RGB modes don't quite do it for you, the Vortex 10 is highly customizable on board without the need of any software. You can record RGB lighting effects onto 3 different layers by toggling the first 2 dip switches. And yes, you can customize the lighting per key. Conveniently, the color of the left spacebar LED will indicate which layer you're in. Coming up next, we have the sound test. I'll spend some time with the keyboard and give you guys my overall impressions. Alright guys, so overall impressions. I thoroughly enjoyed the typing experience on this keyboard. Although Cherry MX Reds are not my switch of choice, there were a couple of things that surprised me. I took one apart and found some lube on the stem legs as well as the back side of the stem. It's still not as smooth as say a Kale Cream switch, but it's noticeably less scratchier than what I remember for Cherry MX Reds. The stabilizers were also a pleasant surprise. These things are generously lubed and it was definitely apparent during the typing experience. There was minimal rattle during typing, and quite honestly, this is something that we should stop and give Vortex some praise for. When they first released their all-aluminum Poker 3, it left us with a strong first impression, but the stabilizers were undeniably one of its biggest downfalls. The Vortex 10 does have a tiny bit of case ping, but you have to listen very closely or hammer down on a single key to even hear it. There's not too much that can be done to mitigate this without covering the LEDs on the bottom of the PCB, but in my opinion, it's not really an issue. Just like other 60% boards, you can access the additional keys that you have on full-size keyboards by pressing FN and the corresponding key. For example, FN and 5 is F5, while FN and backspace is delete. If for some reason you don't like the arrangement of these FN keys, you can toggle the 4th dip switch for another prearranged order. If you're like me and really value dedicated arrow keys for productivity, you can toggle the 3rd dip switch to reassign your / Alt, FN, and PN keys to arrow keys. The Vortex 10 is compatible with both Windows and Mac, and it also features macro functionality on board. Similar to the RGB lighting, you can program your desired macros onto 3 different layers. Setting up macros is super easy. You start off by selecting your desired layer using the dip switches and pressing PN and left control to enter programming mode. Hit the key that you want to program, type the content that you want it programmed to, and then hit PN to record it. Repeat these steps for other keys when you're finished and press PN and left control to exit programming mode. No software required. Alright, I think that's pretty much it for my review, so what are my final thoughts? 2 thumbs way up. The hot swap capability is the most killer feature for me, but Vortex paid a lot of attention to all the small details. The RGB is super bright, the stabilizers are pretty good for a production board, and the hybrid design is rock solid. I really appreciate Vortex for not copy and pasting and giving us another cookie cutter 60% board. I wouldn't say that there's anything revolutionary here, but Vortex definitely took some of the best features from other keyboards and put them all into one. This is definitely going to be my new gaming keyboard, though I might change out a few things, which brings me to my list of cons. I really would have like to see some switch options other than Cherry MX. As a keyboard enthusiast, I do have other switch options on hand, but for someone coming in and shelling out $159, that might be a tough pill to swallow. Though I should remind everyone that this is a limited anniversary edition after all. If they decide to do a full production run of this keyboard, which they totally should, I think they should add another color option. And a keycap puller would be nice too. That pretty much sums up the video, guys. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, hit that thumbs up button and support the channel by subscribing. If you have any questions, drop a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you're interested in the Vortex 10, you can use my creator code LILRICEMUNCHER at mechanicalkeyboards.com to support the channel with your purchase. I'll catch you guys on the next one. I gotta go eat some rice. This is LILRICEMUNCHER Gaming, signing off. Thanks.